Welcome to CMO Weekly, the show where we sit down with the world's top marketing leaders to uncover the bold moves, tough lessons, and breakthrough ideas that have shaped their journey. Every episode, we go beyond the headlines to explore what it really takes to build brands, lead teams, and stay ahead in a fast-changing industry. I'm Hayley Clover, and this is CMO Weekly. This episode is brought to you by Open Fortune. Open Fortune is the only marketing company putting your brand inside of actual fortune cookies. Yep, those cookies you crack open after dinner, they're now prime real estate for your brand message. Open Fortune distributes millions of branded fortunes every month through thousands of restaurants nationwide, giving brands a moment of surprise and attention that no banner ad can match. Want to reach people when they're smiling, engaged, and ready to share something fun? Head to openfortune.com to learn more. Alrighty, everyone. Today's guest is reimagining what marketing looks like in the mortgage world. Andrew Strickman, the Chief Marketing Officer at New American Funding, is leading a 60-plus marketing team, which is crazy, across brand, performance, storytelling, content, and equitable home ownership initiatives. Before NAF, he shaped the brand at realtor.com, built campaigns at Yahoo, and helped launch influencer and word-of-mouth strategy at agencies. Since joining NAF in 2023, Andrew has restructured the marketing organization, repositioned the brand, relaunched NAF.com, and pushed forward mission-driven programs focused on lending access. Andrew, you have done so much. I'm really excited to chat about all of it. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. That was a really great introduction. And actually, I think I've heard from the folks at Open Fortune. So
I'm sure you have. They're fantastic, but they're also very good at outreach. So I'm not surprised. Fortune cookies, super, super fun. I am excited to chat about your career, though, and learn a little bit more about how you got started and how you've continued to level up in every step of your marketing career. So give us a little bit of a background of how you got started.
Yeah, it is actually sort of an interesting journey. A lot of it has been serendipity, but I started my career as a journalist back before the internet. I worked for both weekly and alternative weekly newspapers. I did a lot of work in the pop culture sphere for magazines. And I moved to the Bay Area in the late 90s to get in on the first wave of this thing called Web 1.0. I was hired to lead a content team at a site called sidewalk.com, which was Microsoft's foray into local market advertising, honestly, but it was built around this concept of a city guide. And sort of, meandered through the world of both digital content as well as web design and creative design, and then found myself at an agency in the early 2000s called CMO Marketing. We were the world's first influencer and word-of-mouth marketing agency. This was prior to social media, so this was really about finding those people for whom information was social capital. And, Malcolm Gladwell referred to them as mavens in his book, The Tipping Point. And we were going out and finding those actual real life mavens. We were exposing them to brands and products, giving them experiences with them, and tracking what they said and to whom they said it. And it really sort of kicked off an enormous industry, which has now been taken over by social media. Yeah. Influencer is now a career, something I never thought would actually happen. But it was during that time that I also continued to get more involved in the world of marketing and advertising. When I left AMO in 2010, it was to head up a word-of-mouth and experiential marketing team at Yahoo. I was there for a couple of years, but during that time had 7 CEOs in 2 years. Oh, wow. So it was definitely an interesting time. Yeah. But accomplished a lot, did some really great things at a global scale, which I had never done before. And after being victim to a layoff there, followed a former boss from Yahoo to realtor.com. And that's where I spent 8 years building the realtor.com brand almost from the ground up. We licensed the name realtor.com from the National Association of Realtors. Wow. And it was during those 8 years that I really discovered the incredible number of stories that exist within the world of housing and real estate, and bringing those stories to life. My life as a journalist, I used to tell other people's stories in their own words. And by the time I got to realtor.com, it was really about the brand giving permission to our customers, our consumers, to tell really interesting stories about us in the context of their own lives. I got to do really remarkable work there. We launched the brand's first ever brand campaigns, took the brand to TV for the first time. We grew our awareness from the low 40s, national awareness from the low 40s when I arrived to about 95% total awareness in the U.S. by the time I left. Got to work with Elizabeth Banks, the actress, director, producer, social media maven for a number of years as our celebrity spokesperson. And really, I think brought humor and wit to one of the biggest decisions you're ever going to make in your life, that of buying a home. When I left Realtor at the end of 2020, I took a detour into healthcare for a little bit, where I became the CMO of a healthcare startup in the clinical research space. And then found my way to NAF two plus years ago at a time when the mortgage industry was really in dire straits. And to be honest, we still continue to be. It is a tough time to be in mortgage, but through all of that, NAF has continued to grow. We continue to remain profitable. And it's a really good opportunity for us to now get in front of consumers and tell the story of why NAF and why now.
Yeah, wow, that's so interesting. And how cool of an experience to be able to build a brand like Realtor.com from literally the ground up, because it's funny, as somebody maybe in the age where I wasn't necessarily looking for a house at that time, I've never not known Realtor.com. So the awareness, it's interesting to hear that, it started in the 40s when you got there, and now, yeah, I think everyone can recognize that brand. So very, very cool. And I also think, gosh, going through, did you say 7 or 8 CEOs at Yahoo?
Yeah, it was an interesting time.
Extremely. And I imagine the amount of changes and the rapid pace at which they changed was incredibly difficult, but also a really great learning experience, because, man, do you have to learn how to adapt quickly.
Absolutely. And Yahoo, from long before I arrived, and now with its resurgence, post sort of acquisition and return to ownership after sort of being stuck in corporate hell for a long time. The people who work at Yahoo, we used to say we all bleed purple. But some of the smartest, most thoughtful, most interesting people I worked with, and a number of them translated over to Realtor.com, which was thrilling as we got to carry on that tradition and a lot of great work as a result of what we learned during the time at Big Purple.
Yeah. So cool. So, okay, all of that experience brings you to NAF. And like you said, timing-wise, it was a difficult time to have to market anything about mortgage lending, mortgages in general. So tell me, what is the priority then when you go into a company like NAF? It's difficult. There's probably a lot of things that you can tackle at the beginning. What is your first priority when you go in terms of speaking to consumers?
Yeah, for me, the first thing with any role like this, at the CMO level, at a senior executive and marketing level, is to spend a lot of time listening. Mm-hmm. You may have preconceived notions or judgments about what could be done or what should be done, but I guarantee you the majority of them are probably not right, or at least not fully formed. And my arrival at NAF came with the permission to sort of hang out for a bit and listen. One of the first things I learned was that NAF was considered the best kept secret in mortgage. Those who knew us loved us. And within the industry, we were known as the place to come work if you wanted a long career and a supported career in mortgage. That isn't satisfactory, though. It's cool to be the best kept secret for a hot minute. But ultimately, what you want to become is a well-known, beloved, differentiated brand. And so almost from before I started, that was sort of the goal that was articulated to me by our executive leadership, our co-CEOs, Rick and Patty Arviello, who co-founded this company 22 years ago, the president of the company, Christy Bunce, who I work with on a day-to-day basis. And what was really nice is that, oftentimes with a founder-led company, they have preconceived notions about what needs to happen and how it needs to happen. And sometimes you get your hands tied behind your back, but that was the exact opposite of my experience here at NAF, where I did not only have a seat at the table, but I was listened to for my experience, my thoughts, and how I thought we could actually start to become that beloved brand that people are aware of and are talking about. The other component of that was that when I arrived, I recognized that the marketing organization, on some level, was very immature. We were experts in performance marketing and lead acquisition, but generally speaking, all the other components of marketing, all the other functions, were really seen as these sort of order-taking project managers, not thoughtful, creative, strategic minds that could actually help drive our business forward. And so that was a journey that I set myself on alongside my team to really pivot from that sort of order-taking mentality into becoming proactive, strategic partners to the business.
That's awesome. And what did the team start at in terms of how many people when you first were there?
I think when I arrived, it was about 45 to 50.
Okay.
Actually, the number that you had quoted in the introduction is actually a little low now. We're actually at about 85. And that is not because we went out and hired 30 people. There were a lot of marketing people and marketing functions within our business that were not rolling up within my organization. And it was sort of a journey in and of itself to figure out who those people were, how they were valuing the business, bringing value to the business, and then how they could probably better be served by being surrounded by peers and colleagues who understood what they were going through, understood what their challenges were, and were there to support them.
Yeah. It's really cool. Can you talk a little bit about your leadership style, especially as someone, I mean, this has got to be, with my interviews anyway, one of the largest teams that I've seen roll up to someone. How do you, one, I guess, consider yourself as a leader? And two, like what are the joys and the struggles of leading a team that is that large?
Yeah, I think that I learned from some really phenomenal leaders over the course of my career. And that learning continues to this day. But at its heart and at the heart of who I am, I consider myself both mindful and empathetic. And the mindfulness comes in sort of trying to manage through change and challenge without losing sense of control or a relative level of calm, right? But the empathetic leadership style is something that I've really tried to develop over the years. I want people to operate with kindness. I want them to assume good intent in any sort of interaction they're coming in contact with internally or externally. And I also want people to know that they're part of a team. And oftentimes there are things outside of our workday, things outside of our work life that have a direct impact on our ability to bring our best selves to work. And when someone on my team needs time away or needs flexibility to manage through those challenges that are happening in their lives outside of work, whether it's family or personal, they know that their team is going to rise up around them to support them and that we've got their backs. And I do believe that, especially with sort of the stress and challenge of where the mortgage industry is today, we need to have more empathy for each other, and we need to have more empathy for the work that we do, and we need to care about each other. So, those are sort of the components of how I try to lead. I think that it's very important to me, especially with a team this large, that every person within the organization understands that. It's not just my leaders who are then set off to market this idea to their teams. I want the people to hear it from me. I want them to see that I not only talk that talk, but I walk that walk. I mean, I've taken time off before just to be a parent and to show up for my kids or show up for my family. And that's okay. We can figure things out if challenges face us.
Yeah, I think that's great. Everyone could use a little more empathy, just in general, right? Just all over the place. If we could just spew that, everywhere.
I completely agree.
Okay, so you come in and you learn that NAF is the best kept secret, which, like you said, really cool for the time being, but you want to get this to a place where everybody knows about it and can take advantage of the amazing service. So what are those first couple of steps that you take to, speak to consumers? Is it talking to the two CEOs, and saying, listen, I think we need to spend a lot of resources here or team time on the brand storytelling side of things to really make sure that people know who we are? What are those first steps that you take?
Yeah, I think this is applicable across any industry and any organization, but I really, really believe in research. I believe in research driving insights and strategy. And when I arrived, I found out that we'd never done any research ever with consumers, nor had we done really any formal research with our loan officers. In the mortgage industry, there are many people within the industry who believe that loan officers are your core constituency, not consumers, but your employees or your potential employees. And the other component of mortgage is, if you're not continuing to recruit and bring in new loan officers, you're sort of dying on the vine. Mm-hmm. And so I had sort of, one, the need to understand consumer mindset, but two, this really, powerful belief internally that our loan officers are, and I've come to believe it as well, are core to our business, and what they want and what they need and how they operate is core to our understanding about how to get better at our business. So we launched research, and, it was a little bit of an uphill battle to even get my executive leadership to sign off on the research because, they had an attitude, well, we've been doing this a long time. We know what consumers think. We definitely know what our loan officers think. And it was very fulfilling and also very humbling when the research was completed and we went through a lengthy sort of executive briefing on what we learned, that there was a lot of sort of wide-eyed, wow, I didn't know that. I wouldn't have assumed that or expected that. And, yes, was that a little bit validating on the inside? Absolutely. But more importantly, it gave us this roadmap that allowed us to develop brand positioning that is really at the core of how you build a brand, right? I firmly believe and have for many years that brand positioning is, excuse the punny metaphor, the foundation of the house upon which everything can get built up. Sure. And it is also the way that every single employee within an organization can understand how their role actually rolls up to the impact of the business overall and how they can contribute to it. And so we did that brand positioning work after the research. And of course, then that is what drove the creative development and strategic development of the brand campaign we launched a couple of months ago, Hell Yeah, You're Buying a Home, which has been incredibly eye-opening for the industry and really already driving enormous increases in marketing success for our business. And I'm super proud of the work.
That's awesome. Yeah, talk to me a little bit more about that campaign. One, the campaign name is incredible. That's hilarious. And it is that time where you should be super excited instead of anxious and nervous. Obviously, all of those emotions, will come to a head as well when you're making that giant purchase. But it should be that exciting time, and you should have the folks and the team around that you trust while you're going through it. So tell me a little bit about just that campaign in general, and why is it making such splashes in the industry?
Yeah, about just over a year ago, we identified an independent agency out of Austin, Texas, Preacher, to work with on this campaign. And, I'll be honest, and everyone involved would agree, we got off to a bumpy start, right? Because this is an organization on our side that has never really done things like this before. Yeah. There was a lot of chemistry work that had to happen between the agency, my core team working with them, and our executives who really admittedly don't understand this type of brand development work and the type of work that comes into building an advertising campaign. The good news is we got over all those humps. Mm-hmm. We smoothed them all out. And we really latched on to this phrase within sort of the creative development process, hell yeah, you're buying a home. the first version of what that campaign was going to look like, it wasn't right, but there was something really compelling about the phrase, hell yeah. And ultimately, with a lot of coaching and a lot of hand-holding from my executive team, we got to the point where hell yeah was really unlocked as this intimate conversation between two people. It might be a husband and wife. It might be, in the case of one of our spots, an adult son and his mom sitting in a car. But whereas hell yeah as a statement could maybe be a little provocative and a little discomforting, hell yeah between two people who are like in this moment right before they're going to buy a home, it is a rallying cry. Yeah. And it is that moment where you know that, yeah, we're actually doing this. And so that was a huge unlock for us. We worked with a phenomenal director. We produced this campaign. I've worked with the same media agency since my time at Realtor.com, Ocean Media, and we brought this campaign to life and we launched it out into the world. The mortgage industry didn't know what had hit them. There are not many mortgage companies who are doing big national brand campaigns.
Right.
And as a result, a lot of people took notice. I think that all of the nervousness about putting a phrase like hell yeah out into the world melted away in the first 24 hours when our co-CEOs were both getting all these phone calls from colleagues and friends who had seen the campaign, heard about it, and they're like, yeah, you did this. Hell yeah.
Exactly.
And it's been out in the world now for about 2 months. We're already seeing performance gains, not only from a brand awareness perspective, but this is really sort of at the heart of what we're looking to do is demonstrate how brand exposed consumers, brand aware consumers are more likely to engage with other marketing channels that we may put out into the world. And we've already proven that brand exposed consumers we're driving more efficient leads through our lead partners as a result. And we're driving down those costs per leads precipitously, like by tens of dollars.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. I think a lot of the reason that statement and maybe, conversations around this too is like humanizing that process and the process of getting a mortgage. It's a confusing thing, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, but for anyone really understanding, and especially now when it seems like, mortgage rates and things are always changing and regulations are changing and just all sorts of stuff. But humanizing the company itself to be like, oh wait, they're kind of fun. Like I could get a mortgage through them. That's kind of cool.
I mean, and the other part of it, and that word human, is really at the heart of a lot of what we do. And we've always seen ourselves as the human mortgage company, right? And through our brand positioning, part of that brand positioning work really was about demonstrating our commitment, long-term commitment to our customers. We service, meaning we actually hold the paper on more than 90% of the loans that we underwrite. So customers know generally when they come to us, we're not going to sell off their loan the day after they close. And that demonstrates to them that we're with them in it for the long haul.
Right.
And I think that that human quality and that knowing that they can get a person on the phone and they might actually get the same person over and over again that they worked with originally. Yeah. That's important to people.
Yeah, it totally is. So it's great that within 2 months, you guys are already seeing, an increase in brand awareness and all of these things. Can you talk to me a little bit about the channels that were used in that campaign? Was it mostly digital? Were you out doing some of the experiential, since you have experience in experiential marketing? What were some of the channels that are being used?
Yeah, great question. This is primarily a streaming media and socially driven campaign right now. There's always the possibility we may bring it to TV, but I think as you and many of your listeners know, if your core audience and the people we are trying to reach are older Gen Z and millennial first-time home buyers, they're not watching too much linear TV other than live sports, right? And so we wanted to really...
And that is going to streaming. A lot of those primetime games are on streaming networks.
Totally. And we're actually buying into some of those. Right. But we have a healthy but small media investment against this. But it's great when you get that text from a friend, or in the case of me, I got a text from my parents the other day that they had seen the spot while they were watching MSNBC. Well, but I think that we have a lot of ideas, right? And one of the core sort of challenges with working with our agency on this was we wanted a brand platform that would live beyond a single campaign. Right. And we do believe that Hell Yeah is that brand platform. It has already permeated so many different components of what we are doing out in the world, whether it's our loan officers who want all this Hell Yeah gear when they're meeting with clients, to the fact we were just at NAREP a couple of weeks ago, the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. And we had 40 plus team members there. And our entire booth execution was, hell yeah, you can partner with us. And it was really targeted at real estate agents. And we brought that hell yeah energy to everything we did there. So I think that we've latched onto a brand platform that is going to last with us for a long time.
Yeah, I think that's so cool. When you look at that and you're like, okay, we've gotten kind of ourselves into a place where we can use this now into the future and use it in many different facets of the business. Do you turn to your next initiative as a CMO and something else that you've been hoping to tackle, or do you continue to really dive into Hell Yeah and, make new iterations of what it could be?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that because I'm a brand guy, right? Mm-hmm. Like enough people have told me you're the brand guy, that sort of stuck. But I'm constantly thinking about how to expand our brand platform. We're already talking about developing more scripts and more spots in the same vein. But also the blessing of having a team as large as I do is that we can do more than one thing at one time. Right. And we are doing a lot at one time. We have another campaign fully focused on recruiting loan officers and sales professionals into our organization that's going to launch in a couple of weeks. We have adjacent campaigns for our reverse mortgage team off a campaign concept we developed a year plus ago called The Old Wives, which is about old wives' tales and breaking down the mythologies around reverse mortgage. And that one was created initially completely with AI, which was really fun.
Oh, wow, cool.
But we've got a lot to do and a lot going on. And so part of my job is to sort of keep it all in organized up here. But I'm not the most organized person, so I need help doing it.
It's funny. I feel like I hear that a lot, actually, because, marketing folks inherently are creative people. And I think a lot of time creatives aren't necessarily the most organized on paper people. Right. So, but you are organized in your head. That is a thing. It's just like communicating it somewhere else so people can see it. So tell me a little bit about, I know that you relaunched NAF.com. When was that? Was that towards the beginning of your time at New American Funding?
That was actually just about a year ago. We actually launched, I think, around September 15th of 2024.
Well, that's big. I mean, that has to encompass a lot of changes. If you can talk a little bit about that. Yeah,
it was huge. I mean, the website, the previous website had been reskinned a few times as our brand identity had evolved. Right. But going back to sort of that research that we did, it really unlocked a lot of insights for us about what a mortgage website should look and feel like, what it should do. Early in my time at NAF, I brought on an editorial leader to really increase the volume of our editorial content around mortgage and around finance, and around real estate. A former colleague from Realtor.com, actually. But part of that purpose and function was to be prepared for when we did relaunch the website, to have a really robust learning center that was not only written content, but also a ton of video content. So we wanted consumers to know that they could come to us with a question, even if they weren't in the market to buy a home. And beyond that, it really was that humanity, that warmth, that demonstration of who we are through how we put ourselves out into the world that we wanted people to really connect with. And we wanted it to be easy for people to get to where they needed to go when they got to our website. And I think we accomplished all those things.
I think that's awesome. What does it look like for the next, year for NAF as we kind of look into the future? What can people expect?
I think we're still scratching our heads as to what's going to happen to mortgage rates. There was a short dip ahead of the latest Fed news. And now with the government shutdown that just happened yesterday, I think that we're not going to get a whole lot of federal economic data for a while. So we are constantly thinking about things that we can do to be prepared, either for rates to go down or rates to go up. And we are getting more thoughtful and strategic about creating content that can live in sort of our evergreen vault until such time as we need it. Right. But we are going to continue to work on growing our brand awareness. We're putting more work out into the social sphere. And, I think that we're both aggressively optimistic and cautious at the same time, if that's possible.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. I mean, that does have to be interesting when you're in a space like that may feel like you have a bit of a lull, even though it's not internally, because you have to continue to create and create and create so that when you are crazy busy and people are ready to take on a mortgage, they have all of the resources they need. But that does have to be a bit interesting.
It is. Yeah. I mean, I think that there are certain elements of working on mortgage that are more stressful than other roles that I've been in. Yeah. And there are certain elements that are just more collegial and supportive. And I'm here for all of it.
Yeah. So just to kind of wrap this section up, what is it about marketing in general that keeps you excited, on a day-to-day basis? After such a long career and a career with many different companies, getting to experience a lot of different things within the marketing industry, is there one thing that really always keeps you excited to kind of get to work in the morning?
I mean, I want to help people. I want to impact lives positively. Housing is a great arena to do that. And, I constantly feel like the best is yet to come. I'm old, but I'm not that old. I'm not ready to hang up my hat anytime soon. And I love surrounding myself with creative people who are smarter than me. And I love that stimulation and really getting to figure out some of these big challenges on an ongoing basis. And, that's what sort of gets me up and out of bed in the morning. And, I want to continue to do that, to make that impact, help people find a place to hang their hat and to have a roof over their head. So,
yeah, I think that's awesome. It's definitely still, I would have to say, and I'm sure you have a statistic on this somewhere, a goal of most people to be able to.
I think so. It is an interesting time for that goal, right? Yeah. I just saw a story today that said that millennials are less optimistic about their ability to buy a home at this moment in time than they have been in many years. But that sort of, 25 to 45, 25 to 50 demographic is still the largest cohort of first-time home buyers in the country. And so if we can reach them with a message that makes sense to them and a brand that they could feel connected to, I feel like we're doing the right things.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I'm in that demographic, so keep going. Keep doing the Lord's work because we all need help. It's funny. I think a lot of it too is maybe not even necessarily thinking that you can't own a home, but it's owning a home that you would even feel comfortable in, a bit like just the outlook is a bit grim in terms of how expensive everything is. And so any help that, we can get in terms of education on how to maybe make that, not the reality would be awesome.
That's right. There was a line that came from one of our old Realtor.com campaigns, which was, you're not looking for a dream home, but you're looking for a home you can dream in.
Yeah.
And, it really just reflected the reality that, especially when you're starting out, you need to be willing to find some place that you can make your own rather than you see and say, that's already what I've been dreaming about.
Completely agree. Yeah. And there's something so awesome about being able to make it your own as well.
For sure.
Andrew, I have taken up a good amount of your time. What I love to do here at the end is just a fast question round quickly, some things to learn a bit more about you, a little less about work, if that's okay.
Sure.
First thing that comes to your mind, feel free to throw out the answer. Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
maybe not, but
they're not hard. It's what you can't be wrong here. All right. Person dead or alive that you'd most like to sit down to dinner with?
Prince.
Oh, that's a good one. You're the first person to answer Prince, so I love when we get a new one. That's good. Would you sit down with him at what name?
When he was the Glyph.
Okay. What is your favorite city in the world?
New Orleans.
Good answer. In 30 years, what do you think people will be nostalgic about?
A time when humans did things rather than computers.
Yeah, that's AI and stuff like that often answered. Do you have any totally random skills or hobbies that have nothing to do with your job?
I don't think they have anything to do with they have to do with my job as a parent. When the pandemic began, I basically became the primary chef in the house and was making anywhere from 2 to 3 meals every day for every meal, given the different food preferences of my kids and my wife. But it really, cooking still is my meditation. I love a really complex recipe. I have started just whipping things up, and that's kind of fun too. But finding a really complex recipe and following it to a T and having it turn out great is a great joy of mine.
Such a good feeling. Do you have a dish that you remember that was complex like that you were like, oh, I killed this?
I mean, beef bourguignon is a very, very lengthy endeavor for sure.
Yeah.
And getting it right and getting it to taste right.
I bet. Did you get into the sourdough craze as well during COVID?
I am not a baker.
Okay. It's funny. A lot of chefs are not. That seems pretty apparent whenever you watch any of those cooking shows. They're like, I don't do pastry. Okay. What is one thing that your past self, let's say 10 years ago, would be really shocked to learn about your life today?
That I stayed in one role for 8 years and that it was truly probably the most formative time in my life. The time at Realtor.com, I think, has set me on a path that'll, last me till the end of my career and beyond.
That's awesome. Okay. I know you mentioned that you worked with Elizabeth Banks in the past. If NAF happens to ever have some type of celebrity endorsement or works with a celebrity partner, do you have a person that you would absolutely dream to work with?
That's a great question. I think the easy answer would probably be Jason Sudeikis.
Oh, he's so fun.
Yeah, I'll stick with Jason Sudeikis.
Love it. And last question. What brand outside of NAF are you loving how they're marketing and how they're storytelling? Does not have to be within the housing mortgage space. It can be anyone that you like to follow.
I will say probably Chime. They're finance adjacent, and I just love everything that they're putting out there right now.
Love that. Yeah. That's it. You crushed it. Andrew, thank you so much for joining CMO Weekly. It was really awesome to learn more about what you're doing at NAF right now and your career. And I think there were some really awesome tidbits that, the folks can take away and learn from. So thank you so much for giving us some of your time.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. And I really appreciate the interest.
Yeah, no problem at all. And if you guys liked what you heard, always please subscribe to CMO Weekly. We have amazing CMOs on every week, and we will see you next time. Thanks.